Alright, tonight's video, a little bit about making stock. So, taking what we have here around the house, this is a beautiful leg of lamb that we got.
It's grass-fed.
Grass-fed, organic, spent a little bit of extra money. This is the leg of lamb with the bone in. So what we're going to do tonight is just show you a little bit about how to use your knife, clean up a piece of meat like this. Take your bone, which we're going to use for stock. We'll show you that video tonight as well. And then we'll take our meats and save them, put them aside. And because this is such a wonderful cut of meat, frankly, I think we're going to eat it like this instead of putting this meat into a soup. We're going to try to really salvage as much as we can. It was a beautiful piece of meat. Our basic essential tools here, a couple of knives, plate, fork, and your two hands. Sometimes you just got to get in there and grab stuff. Knife safety. We talked a little bit about this briefly on a previous video, but the idea is to always cut away from yourself and use the table. Use the table as a surface where you can put that knife, follow through, be mindful of how you're holding your knives, obviously.
Careful how you're gesturing with your knives if you're talking to somebody.
Yes, that's always important. We covered this lamb in olive and garlic, which we minced up real fine with a few other good ingredients and a lot of spices, so that's just what I'm removing here.
It smells awesome.
Yeah, it was very good. It'll look kind of an Indian thing going on here. So, cleaning up the bone. We're just going to take off slices of meat. Again, this is just an especially nice piece, and we're just trying to make the most out of the meat. You don't have to be this careful when cutting up something that you have at home if you're not intending to keep the meat. So, just a few little tricks, and then we'll come back and show you the finished product.
What are those white pieces in there?
This is going to be where your, gosh, what would these be? These would be like a ligament or something almost. This is what's connecting your muscle groups and separates them, which is what your finer cuts of meat really come from. So here you see a little bit of fat. Lamb is especially easy because it's such a beautiful tender. But you'll see it just pulls right apart for the most part. If you were trying to do this and keep it pretty, you would go and trim it out, but you can see really for the most part you just pull them right out and separate them if you're trying to clean up your meat, which is something we are going to do with this piece. I have spoiled my wife by cleaning all her meat up for her before it comes to her, but hey, that's what wives are for, right? Wives and grandkids, I'm sure. That's the way all grandparents feel. Now again, knife safety. Holding the meat, using the table, and cutting down and away from yourself as we're just trimming up this bone. Again, if you're not trying to keep the meat, then you just throw the whole thing in the soup pot. But we're going to save this because it was wonderful. You want to pause it or?
I just want to mention that you just saw right before I paused it that white thing come out. That's actually a clove of garlic. It's not something super gross. When David was cooking it, he tucked that down in an open spot next to the bone. So that's what that was. You shouldn't see things like that popping out of your meat if you didn't if you didn't put them in there yourself.
That piece of meat right there, that's like filet mignon.
And what like, is this rare, medium rare? Like, what would you call this?
This would very much be rare. That's a good pointer. I put the meat thermometer out to remind me to talk about the fact that I really don't like them. I never feel like I get what I'm supposed to get out of them. I cooked a roast beef one time and used the thermometer. It turned out really well. But I realize that not everybody is the same. And I have always had just a very good sense of when my food was done, through smell, through appearance. So for me, it's pretty easy. This was a leg of lamb, and yeah, we cooked it rare. Again, grass-fed, organic. There was no reason not to. Lamb is also a little more flavorful when it is on the rarer side. So something to consider for your meats. Again, not everybody's the same, and that's okay, because you can do it the way you like it. These are just kind of principles and ideas that we're trying to show you and share. A means to make cooking more accessible to everyone. So take what you can and use what you can, and come up with your own ideas and what makes you comfortable. You know, it's sort of like all the yoga classes and stuff that people take. It's go at your own pace and do what you can do, and don't push yourself too hard, and just try to enjoy it and learn from the whole process. Because I've always been passionate about cooking, and I love the whole thing. So for me, it's easy. You can see we're getting down sort of to the bitter end here. It's a kind of a matter at this point of how much meat I want to keep on it, and frankly, I don't know that I'm interested in keeping that much. So we're going to continue to pull off as much as we can. Notice again, knife going down away from you towards the table. Notice how we got all the way down to the bone here. Using that bone as a guide. You're not pushing against it. You're going with the way the bone itself goes. So again, just let the knife do the work. Oftentimes you'll find when you're doing something right, it really doesn't require that much effort. If you find yourself struggling, you're probably not doing it right.
Or as efficiently as possible.
Right. Just make the most out of your movements, you know. I learned growing up, I used to sell Christmas trees, and you had to cut the base off the Christmas tree for everybody, give them a fresh cut. But you had to let the saw do the work. You wear yourself out to death trying to cut some of that stuff.
Now, talking about broth, and I'm sure you'll cover this later, but we have a big bloody-looking mess over there. Is that going to be involved in the broth at all?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I'm keeping that.
Okay.
That's not going away.
Not for vegetarians or vegans. Sorry.
Yeah.
We think of quality of life, and grass-fed and organic is the way that we choose to eat. And at this point in our life and in our nutritional needs, we can't go vegan or vegetarian.
And
so
this is where the nutrition is. And again, this is blood that's a result of cooked meat. It's not blood that's a result of raw meat. So it's something entirely useful for us. It's been through the heat. So yeah, we're going to keep this as part of the flavor. Just getting some of the olive and the garlic and stuff out. Just going to put this in here for now. This is what we're going to take to the soup pot with us. Tonight we're going to make a lentil soup, and we're going to use the lamb as the stock. And
just a note about rare versus well done. I recommend a book called Nourishing Traditions. It's something that comes up a lot in when you're looking at healthy ways of eating, and this is it's a book that follows the story of Weston A. Price and how he looked at traditional groups of people who were eating traditional foods. And one of the things that he found that was a good principle is to eat your meat as raw as you possibly can. I used to not be able to stand the sight of blood like this would totally gross me out. And I just got to the point where I realized that my body it processes rare cooked meats a lot better than well done. And I just, some things you do because it's good for you, and some things you do because you like it, and you grow to like it later. So that's just a mention about rare meat. I recommend that if you're doing grass-fed, organic muscle meat like this, you do get it on the rare side. I don't recommend that for hamburger, just because you don't know where it's coming from or what cuts of meat it is. And a lot of times, if you're going to have, we got some nibbles going on here. If you have some kind of problem with E. coli, it's typically ground meat and it's usually commercially raised. So that's just a side note. The state of North Carolina, I think, has a prohibition against certain ways of cooking hamburger just because of that risk. It's not that way in Virginia or DC or Maryland. So different states may have different requirements and recommendations for kitchens, especially at restaurants. You may not find that you can even order a hamburger rare, but if you're grilling out or something, and you're cooking it yourself, some people really prefer them that way. I would recommend, if you don't know where the beef is coming from and you don't know what cuts are ground, then you don't eat it that way. If you go to your what are they called, the butcher, and have it ground yourself, and you know he hasn't ground hamburger in there since he cleaned the grinder, then you'd probably be okay cooking one at your house. Rare, but I don't recommend that in general. Any other tips? Yep,
just a quick talk while she's been explaining a little bit with your meat safety and everything. You've been seeing how I've been kind of going through and cutting. I'm just looking for tendon and kind of especially little pieces of fat and stuff. Just kind of taking as little away as possible, trying to preserve as much of the integrity of the meat. Little bits like this, I think I'm just going to throw into the soup pot. And again, making the most of what you got.
So the next time we see this lamb, it'll be going into the stock pot, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.